It's about time, it's about time. Well, hello and welcome to this week's vlog. Thank you so much for your great response to the vlog last week. Flo was a big star. I have no doubt that she's going to make more cameo appearances as the weeks go on, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Thank you as well. I asked for your questions for this week and I've had so many questions that it's going to keep me going for the next few weeks. So if I don't answer your question in this vlog, don't worry, I've seen it and I'm going to answer it in the next few weeks. So keep your eyes peeled and I'll get around to answering your questions. So, where am I at? Well, I'm still on maternity leave, officially. I don't start writing again till the start of June. Book 6, which is I'll Take New York, is all ready to go. The only thing I've got to do is look through page proofs. Now, those of you who followed my blog for a long time will know that page proofs is you sort of get a PDF document and it shows what the pages will look like when they're printed in a book. So it's really nice. It's good because I get to see actually what it's going to look like rather than just it being a big Word document on my computer, which it's been up until now. So it's always quite an exciting time and I'm looking forward to reading through those and just sort of make sure there aren't any spelling mistakes or there's no sort of last minute changes you need to make. The cover is coming. I keep being asked about the cover. It's on its way, and also in the next few weeks and months there's some exciting news coming up that I'll be able to share with you. I can't say anything just yet, but as soon as I can I will tell you. It's very, very exciting and I'm over the moon about it, and I will tell you later on. And I'm not pregnant again. I just need to say that because people will say, are you pregnant? No, one's fine, thank you. So, I asked you questions. Here are the first questions that I'm going to answer. First question is from Kev, I Heart Chicklet. Hi Kev, thank you very much for your question. He said, do I have a favourite font to write in? I try and use a different font actually for different books depending on what I'm writing. So in Fairy Tale of New York I used Times New Roman, really boring but standard font, because at the time that was probably the only font that I had on my computer. This was a long time ago that I wrote that book. For I'll Take New York I've been using Georgia, and that's kind of my favourite font at the moment. I always write on Word. But there's new ones that I'm kind of coming across all the time, and you'll notice when I do my book trailers I find funky fonts. I know I'm a bit of a font geek. So when I'm writing book 7, which I've kind of already started, but then I'm going to get back to writing in June when my maternity leave is over, I'll probably find a different font again, because what I'm trying to do with book 7 is to take it in a slightly different direction, so that'll kind of help me sort of psychologically to think about that. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you very much. Next question is from Katie, who is at Not Wed or Dead on Twitter. Brilliant Twitter name. Thank you very much for your question. She wants to know, how much inspiration do I take from people in real life for my characters? I think it depends. Sometimes I actually have people that ask to be written into books. So for example, the famous story, if you've been following my vlogs for a couple of years, and you'll know this, is that my father-in-law Phil asked to be written into my book, and so I wrote him in as Uncle Dudley in It Started With a Kiss. So Uncle Dudley and Auntie Mags in It Started With a Kiss, who are Romilly's aunt and uncle, who are lovely, they're actually based on my real life in-laws, Bob's mum and dad. So that was really fun writing them in, and some of the things that happen in that book have actually happened in real life. A lot of the wedding stuff happens in real life. The wedding band that are in there are based on my friends that I'm in a wedding band with. A lot of the gig stories are actually real, even though people can't believe that I haven't made them up. Sometimes I just make things up. I'll see somebody that looks interesting and I'll kind of daydream about them and think, well, what would happen if they worked here, or they did this, or whatever. It tends to be quite a mixture, but I quite like having that. It's kind of, I feel like I'm a bit of a magpie, so I sort of bring different aspects together, things that I've daydreamed about, things that people that I've seen, stories that people have told me, and it's a real mix. So, but that's one of the joys about being a writer, is you think, oh, I could use that, and you sort of like weave it into the story. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you very much. Next question is from Kelly Rufus, who is Compelling Reads on Twitter. She asked this question on Facebook as well. So hi Kelly, thank you for your question. Kelly wants to know, how do I come up with an idea and turn it into an elaborate plot? There's no great mystery at all. I tend to start off with a question. I'll ask myself a question. So for example, the question with I'll Take New York is, what happens if a man and a woman meet and they decide that they're going to swear off relationships, and they swear a pact to that extent that says we're not going to get involved in relationships anymore, and then both their lives start to have other ideas. So that's the question, that was the starting point for that book, and then I kind of went off and said, well, this could happen and that could happen, and B's got a boyfriend who sort of looks like he's proposing all the time and then he doesn't, and Jake has been married for 7 years and then his wife has unexpectedly filed for divorce and he thought everything was alright. How do they work through that? How do they bond their friendship together? Then I decided, what they're going to do now is that they find that what they have in common is their love of New York City. So they go and they share their favourite bits of New York with each other. At weekends they go off on little trips around New York. Jake was born in New York. B moved to New York when she was 17 to go to university. And so there's that kind of thing where they sort of share their experience, and it sort of grew out from that. So what I would say is what generally tends to happen is that I start off with a question, what would happen if? And then I kind of daydream on paper. That's the first draft, that's what I call it. And then I go back and edit it and make it into some kind of a satisfactory journey so you feel like things happen in the right place. So I hope that answers your question. And the last question this week is from Mel Greenfield, who's at This Little Mel on Twitter. Hi Mel, thank you very much for your question. Great question. She says, after all this time, do you ever doubt yourself while writing, or have you learned to ignore any doubts? Anyone who's a writer will now be screaming at the screen going, no, we never stop doubting. I think if you're a writer, part of the deal of being a writer is you spend a lot of time in your own head, and while that's brilliant for conjuring up amazing stories and taking people on wonderful word journeys, when it's turned around the other way, the flip side of it is that you can end up really doubting what you're writing. It happens an awful lot, and I've spoken to writers who published 20 odd books. I've spoken to writers who've just started their journey. Everybody goes to that stage of going, maybe this is my last book. Maybe I only had 5 ideas in me, or 3 ideas in me, or 25 ideas in me. Every time you start a new project, you're beset by doubts. Every time you're editing, particularly, because you're questioning everything that's there, you can really doubt yourself as a writer. I'm learning to overcome the doubts, but the way that I've chosen to do it is with my Write Foxy philosophy that you'll have seen if you've been following my blog. I'll put a link to it on the blog this time. And the idea is getting back to what we love about writing. When you write a sentence and you get a tingle and you think, I wrote that. When somebody comes up to you and says something that you wrote really touched me. Those things are really important. To that extent, this is a shameless plug. I'm running 2 more Write Foxy days, Writer's Inspiration Days. It's not going to tell you how to write a novel, but it's going to reconnect you with your love of writing and help to overcome those doubts. I've got some fantastic speakers. I'm doing a day at the start of November this year and a day at the start of February next year. I'll put all the details on the blog. Come along, because if you want to know how to write without doubting yourself, no matter where you are in your writing journey, it's great to come and learn from other writers and see what other writers do to get themselves through that. I hope that answers your question. Sorry about the shameless plug in the middle of it, but I've got to do it. So there we go, that's it for this week. I'll have more questions for you next week. If you do have a question, still send them to me, because it's so lovely to know what you want to know about. You can leave a comment underneath this post, or you can send me an email at mirandaword@gmail.com, or you can tweet me at wordsmith on Twitter. And take care, have a great week, and I'll see you soon. Bye. It's about time, it's about